It's not getting in.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People Company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with a friend, and welcome to the party. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let me introduce today's panel. Of course, I've got my returning champions for a small panel, but always a good time. Chris O'Connor is the owner of Liquid Nine Entertainment and Investments, as well as having interests in Rieger Whiskey and Office Works. And Big Dave Elliott, he's the owner of C&P Construction. And today on episode 55 of the Loft Party Podcast, then all hell broke loose. So, I started kind of putting together this list, thinking about we're almost at the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, and kind of want to recap that first 100 days. But what I decided to do is do that recap next week. So we will do a first 100 days recap on next week because there was so much crap that happened. That's why I added then all hell broke loose because it just has been a lot of stuff going on. But before we get too deep, let's play a quick party game. So, Chris.
Yes.
Which instrument makes you the coolest?
I'll tell you this. The easiest one definitely is guitar and singing. That's the most obvious one. That is clearly the one. But I can tell you you're the biggest badass in the world if you can pull off a guitar in any way that makes you look semi-respectable. If you can play keyboards or guitar in any band ever and make it look awesome, you are the bigger badass at that point because it's too easy to go the other way.
It's very true. Very true, actually. What do you think, Big Dave?
My father played the trumpet. I played the trumpet. And if you ever saw Lonnie McFadden get down on a trumpet, or any of the old jazz musicians get down on a trumpet player can be a serious badass because that's a sharp instrument. It has this tone, and there's all different types from the flugelhorns and then all they go through with the brass there. Horns can make a lot of different sounds.
Oh, yeah. My personal thing that I would pick is probably keys as well. I just think there's something inherently cool about being able to pick up a guitar and do the kind of brooding rock star thing. But it's something special when you can sit down behind the keys and really pull that off. But I will say some of my bigger musical heroes that aren't in my genre are jazz musicians, and in particularly Miles Davis.
I was listening to him yesterday.
John Coltrane.
Dude, I would go back to even like Benny Moon, Charlie Parker.
Exactly. I mean,
locally, Bobby Watson.
Yeah.
Bobby's awesome, man. He ran the KC Jazz, Kansas City University, UMKC Jazz Ensemble for a long time. Saw him do a couple of private shows like that, man. The kids and him rocked it.
Yeah, he was great.
I mean, they were really good.
All right. Okay, so last part of the question. Would you rather be responsible for making world peace or ending world hunger?
Ooh, Dave, you better go first on this.
All right. I'd rather end world hunger because that would create more peace in its own right. Because famine is usually an effect of war.
Oh yeah, I mean to tell you the truth, I mean so many of the people that we've lost to I mean they've converted to fighting for ISIS. really all started from famines in their local areas, and
They were kept poor.
and so it's like you don't have any money, you don't have any food, you don't have any access to food.
You got no job.
Yeah, you're gonna go wherever you can go that you can get it, and I think so. I tend to agree with you. I think solving hunger may do more to solve peace than just solving peace.
So I know I always do these really annoying history stories, but I would say this. One, a couple things. First off, most people who are terrorists are actually not poor. They come from middle-class educated families, and they have a very firm ideology, and they believe in it 1,000%. So study after study has shown that it's not just these poor kids who are stupid in the Middle East and they just go around blowing up stuff. They're actually fairly well educated.
That's kind of Hezbollah and Hamas, though, because they're able to recruit from the slums on the low end.
Absolutely.
Not the upper end. But their low end is from the slums.
I'm not saying that there's not a lot of poor people.
I think ISIS is more what you say.
It's the same of what they've always said about the American military, where like, oh, it's just a bunch of hicks from the sticks, and it's we're poor kids who have no other way out. I'm like, no, actually, it's far more diverse and more highly educated than most American companies are, and it's kind of interesting. So that being said. In the 1800s, there was a theory by a British economist named Malthus who came up with this entire thing called Malthusian economics. And he predicted that the world would be out of food by 1950, roughly-ish. So somewhere in the mid-1900s. And what you don't take into account is very interesting. You don't take into account wars. So we probably lost over 50 million people to wars during the last century, if not more. Things like you're saying, accidents, diseases, all these kinds of things, you don't count on that. He was taking the birth rate and multiplying it out and the potential growth of food at that point. And I also think the biggest thing that he blundered on was the development of genetically modified and
GMOs.
GMOs food. So that your yields are now insanely larger than they ever were. So I would just say world peace just because I believe the fact that we've actually have the ability to solve world hunger, and world peace is an infinitely more attainable goal. And I do agree with you that they do go hand in hand to some degree, but I would put water up there before I put food.
Okay.
I think the Third World War will be fought over water, because once you have no water and you can't grow food and you can't drink or do anything else, you will necessarily have to start fighting. That is just what you're.
It's a survival instinct.
If your choice is to starve to death or to fight, it's going to be to fight. So I would so much rather solve world peace through a mechanism like solving the food problem, which the food problem is largely solved too.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
I mean, because we really do have surpluses of food that go to waste, and they don't get shipped out, or they sit and are allowed to go bad. And I'm not saying that it's
food is gasoline.
Well, and as I'm saying, like
it's amazing.
Yeah,
You can take this on local level.
And what I do think is interesting is our federal policy where we pay farmers not to grow food.
Oh.
And I love the fact, and
I know farmers that make millions of doing that.
This one, Dave, is one where I think you and I would have a huge contradiction as being a non-governmental guy who doesn't like that as a free market guy, and we are paying people to inflate the price of food so that farmers make money in places where they could make a lot more yield and actually distribute food around the world, and it'd be cheaper for everybody. So that is one of my weird democratic sides.
As a boy who grew up in the country, I'm not going to argue that one with you at all. That's just a fact. I know farmers that have made buku money not growing crops. And everything in CRP, and then putting a crop in, after your 5-year CRP's up, then turn around, or 10-year, and then turn around and run crops again, and boom, go right back to
Absolutely.
They don't even have, it eliminates how much work they got to do.
It's amazing. And then in western Kansas, they found out, there's a hell of a lot of oil under here, so we don't have to do anything at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll take your federal subsidy, thank you, and then we'll also take the money from Exxon and Mobil and those guys to
Absolutely.
take the oil out.
Mineral rights are huge. My wife, when she sold properties from the bank, the mineral, the water rights, all that stuff was huge money when she go to sell property through trust.
My dad won the largest oil and natural gas case in the United States in the late 80s, and it was Western Kansas farmers who had all agreed with Mobil Oil to lease their land to them for oil exploration. And then they found out that it happened to be the largest vein of oil in the United States. And they all got back together and tried to sue them to renegotiate the deal. And it took years. Like, I didn't see my dad for years.
They don't give that up easy.
Not easy.
He ended up winning big time, and they had to pay out the ass for that. So it was a pretty good case.
All right.
So, this is one I do know a little bit about.
We're part of ways for just a couple of questions.
Yeah, it's all right.
No, those are great questions.
It's like I try to find some new and interesting stuff that I've never asked before, and I figure I'm only doing 2 questions, and for our party questions, so I want to make sure that it's actually something we've never talked about. So sometimes if we just answer them quick, it's funny and it's cool. Sometimes if we actually have a discussion about them, even better.
These ones are big questions. These are important questions.
Yeah. All right, so let's get a little bit deeper and get into our RIPs for the week. Our only actual RIP this week is Erin Moran. She passed away at 56. She was Joanie from Happy Days, Joanie Cunningham. And we were kind of joking before the show because she still looked pretty good up until her last days, and we're saying she actually aged better than Chachi. So, rest in peace to Erin Moran.
Yep.
One we didn't get a chance to talk about, which I'm gonna let you finish, get this in, but let me just say real quick that we didn't get a chance to talk about that I did want to talk about was Charlie Murphy.
Yeah.
Everybody here being pretty big Chappelle Show fans, most people got familiar with Charlie Murphy during the Chappelle Show and the Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Story skits, in particular the one where him and his brother Eddie went to Prince's house, and then of course the classic, which has become just urban slang, a palooza, his Rick James skit.
Yeah.
So I smile and crack up just thinking about
I
those
smile
two
crack
skits.
up when I think about Rick James.
Oh,
Let alone Charlie Murphy. My thought was, how many of our younger audiences out in podcast land that are millennials even know what the hell Happy Days was?
Oh yeah, it's funny
Because when we had our anniversary party, I was really surprised, and how Ben and Brian, there were things that we were going through and having a blast with, and they're going,
what? Yeah, it's funny. A little fun fact: Happy Days was put on the air as an answer and direct challenge to Good Times, which is
Jimmy Walker.
Yeah, because it was like Good Times was
And Amos.
just, Good Times was just killing
classic
the
show.
ratings.
It was great.
It was a great show, and but what they did was they put it up in in the opposing time slot, and which is how different network. But this is how they
Good Times, I think, was CBS, and Happy Days definitely was ABC.
ABC, right? And which is why Fonzie developed to combat Dynamite on Good Times.
I can see that.
I heard about that about maybe about a month ago, and I was just like, really? I was like, and I never thought about it because I actually watched. Well, I'm younger, of course, than when it was on the air originally. But I remember watching both of those shows, and I never would have thought that they aired at the same time.
Well, that's always been the case, and you probably tell me better than that. They're always going to throw a competition. So if you have Good Times out there, which is going to be more of an urban show, watched by an urban audience, white and black, I would say.
It was.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. But what was Happy Days?
Oh yeah,
Happy Days was a throwback. They went after a little bit older,
a little bit older
white audience.
Yeah.
That had been used to sitting around, our families, we had 3 channels. Everybody sat and watched TV together, and you did too, and I definitely did. And so they were after that audience.
Mm-hmm.
And
they got him.
And they got him. So it really created a little, that was a hell of a dynamic when you think about it. I never really thought about it until you brought it up, but I wouldn't call it racial, but they definitely knew how to play it off on people.
They knew there was
it's kind of racial.
They knew that they knew there was a hole in the marketplace, and they knew that there was a demographic for the show, that wasn't watching Good Times. Not that, like you say, not that only black people were watching Good Times, but they knew that there was a demographic that wasn't watching Good Times that they could definitely capture, and Happy Days was a great show. So it would be
I would say even beyond that. One, you had a show that was set in 1950s Milwaukee, Bizarre, which then led to a spin-off of Joanie, which everybody knows. But then it also led to Laverne and Shirley, and it also led. People forget this all the time. It led to Mork and Mindy.
Yes, and that led to Mork and Mindy.
I'm gonna throw this out and see what you think about this. That is the same thing as Hillary and Trump. Because Hillary is more of an urban. More city. The people that vote for her were in that. Where Trump was more rural, more central.
Small towns,
Yeah. So is it?
I'm not buying it.
Has it really never? Come on! Come on! Has it really ever changed that much?
I think.
There's a dynamic there that is similar.
I think he's stretching to it, but I know where you're going.
I am stretching to it,
but I know where you're going.
But it just occurred in my head that there's a similar, not exact dynamic, but a similar dynamic. That was on those 2 shows.
It's interesting. I mean, it's a stretch, but it was.
Well, thanks for giving me some credit. I appreciate that, Mr. O'Connor.
Looking back, if you look where Hillary lost, she just lost the suburbs of big cities or manufacturing went away. And that was a lot of white voters. Actually,
she just didn't go after them the way she should.
She didn't even go there at all.
She was terrible. She was a terrible candidate. I mean, she was horrible. They made a mistake.
She just ran a bad race.
You know what? And the more I think about it, I don't even know if I think she was a horrible candidate. She ran a horrible campaign.
I think she was a great candidate who ran
a horrible campaign.
I don't think she was a great candidate because, number one, the thing. Well, I guess.
And I don't know if I thought she was a great candidate either. But I don't think she was. But I don't think she was horrible. But I do think she ran a horrible campaign, though.
I think to be a former First Lady who becomes a senator, who becomes the Secretary of State, and really you would have the chance to be the first woman president of the United States, which you would think women being 52% of the population of this country would rally behind, and she would gain a lot of that support. You ran a terrible campaign when you lost against a guy who was a game show host. I mean, basically, he did a reality show
and a businessman,
kind of, but he was.
What most people knew him for was The Apprentice,
for going in and out of bankruptcy all the time and doing The Apprentice and firing fake celebrities. So that was what most people knew the guy for. And more than that, he didn't even know any facts. He had no facts.
You go to the left. And who's always out there screaming and yelling at the people paid to? The Hollywood stars. The political Hollywood stars go to the rally and everybody shows up. Whoa! Was it any different with Trump? He was the right Hollywood star.
But they just weren't.
They're the left Hollywood
They just weren't running. Like he won every debate.
It's that cult of personality.
All the issues. It's just she ran such a bad campaign about not going. And in fact, Bill Clinton was the one who called it out and said it's a bad campaign.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton was the one who said you need to be going to these these suburbs of these cities where they've lost the jobs and talk to them. And she did not. Her campaign did not.
I mean, because oddly enough, I always felt during the campaign, not to get too far off track, because I still have one more thing I want to talk about in the RIP section, that it was going to be pretty difficult for Hillary to lose any urban core. So she needed to go, like you say, to the suburbs and to these small cities.
It's difficult for her to lose it all.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Indy, I'm like, if she never went to Philly and never went to Chicago and never went to, she'd have been fine.
If she just hung out at a bar in D.C. and just chilled out, she'd have been fine. But for her not to go to any of the suburbs and small cities and smaller towns, that was a mistake of grand proportion.
I just one more thing on this, and then I'm going to need to move on. I read something this weekend that was interesting, and I read it in the Jacksonville paper, that she got in an argument with her campaign manager early on in 2016, and never talked to him again the rest of the campaign. That's conceit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who she also didn't talk to.
That is a fact.
Who won twice. You know, and would have kept winning every time if he had been able to keep running.
If he could have kept running, yeah.
I mean, he'd still be president right now, and I'd still be kick ass. You real.
Whatever you need to do,
dude.
Whatever you need to do to settle your nerves to get the job done.
Listen, I'm not going to introduce you to my sister, but I'm still going to vote for you.
You know, it's funny. I saw something online about that, just saying, you know, people are always, you know, talking about people who are in these scandals or sex scandals or whatever. They're like, really, does it matter? Because really,
the good ones don't.
Yeah.
The bad ones do.
Yeah, and you know who's who right away. You know, because some people you're like, okay, dude.
Just look at the dude. The dude's screwing everybody. Like, you know it, and he does it with a wink and a smile. It's kind of funny, and you get it, and I always found it funny. I thought it was pretty kind of hilarious, actually. Like, dude, you're pulling tail, and it's like crazy. You know, but like, you get like somebody who's like unpleasant in there, like the guy who was Clinton's press assistant's husband,
Wiener, Wiener.
And you know that guy's just a dirtbag.
I mean,
he doesn't do it in a fun way; he just does it in a shitty way.
Yeah, like here, dude, you're just creepy.
You were just creepy.
Yeah, like just stop. Okay. So, last but not least, this past week was the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Prince, and it got me to thinking because one of our earliest podcasts was talking about Prince passing.
Yeah, it was.
And it just hit me like, damn. Like, we just celebrated the year anniversary of the podcast, and it's just the year anniversary of Prince passing. I was like, one, you know, I suppose, you know, the old phrase, time flies. It really does, because that year went by really fast, and for as much as you still hear about Prince and hear Prince music, and I have several very rabid Prince fan friends, and in Chicago they throw, if not monthly, every other month they throw this pretty huge Prince and Michael Jackson party that they do all originals, no like dance remixes or anything. They play all,
like a DJ spinning, and they go to a dance and have a party.
Yeah. They do it.
They dress up.
Oh yeah. They airbrush T-shirts.
Somebody's got to wear the gloves.
Oh yeah, dude. There's one Prince impersonator who shows up every single time. He's in full Purple Rain gear with the curls and everything.
Some of the best Prince impersonators are trannies.
I don't think this dude is, but I was, when I first time I saw him, I was like, damn, you are committing. God damn.
Here's what I do wonder, and this will be interesting. I wonder if musical stars today that passed away like Prince and Michael Jackson did, carry, and maybe it's a matter of time, and maybe it's a matter of culture, and I don't know which. But do they carry the same legacy forward all the time? So take like an Elvis. You saw people who worship Elvis, or a Marilyn Monroe, or a John Lennon, or somebody like that. Do they still carry the same legacy and same weight in popular culture as
20 years from now?
As older people did?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Or
You know what
20
I mean?
years from now, does he still have that same weight?
Now,
Yeah.
I will probably argue that there will be fewer that will. I do think probably Prince, Michael, Tupac. You know,
Tupac clearly did.
Yeah, I think there's a handful that will.
Right.
But I think we will see a lot of people pass, and that'll be.
I'd argue that Tupac might be even more.
Yeah, his legacy is.
Culture's legacy is bigger even than maybe
he's
Michael
more
Jackson.
I mean, they're about to do the Tupac biopic.
I saw that.
Yeah, and okay, so every year the Anonymous Female and I, we go to the Earth Day movie. So we're recording this a few days after Earth Day, and every year we go to the Earth Day movie. So we go to the Earth Day movie, and when you walk into the theater, you see all the huge banners for the movies that are coming out. And I walk in and I look up and I go, oh my, it is scared me half to death. Because it was the banner for the Tupac movie, and the guy they have playing Pac looked so much, it was like this super close up on his face. He looked so much like Pac, it scared me to death. I don't know where they found this guy.
It was just like Jamie Foxx looked at some of the roles he's played where he became.
Oh yeah, like when he played Ray Charles,
He became Ray Charles.
He channeled Ray Charles. He became Ray.
Some of these guys can do this where they just are able.
Who would have thought a dude
Totally
from
get
Living
into
Color
it.
would be able to be that great of an actor?
Now,
I mean, that great of an actor.
Fantastic actor.
He is one of my favorite of all time.
I
Any Given
like
Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Steaming, really beaming. Yeah.
Oh my god. He
Wait,
was
so now here's another fun fact before we get into the political part of the show about Jamie Foxx. So he does Ali with Will Smith.
Yep.
Where Will Smith really channeled, and he kind of became Ali. But
He did a great job.
Yeah. But Jamie Foxx's Bundini Brown, he did a phenomenal job. And so the story goes, and I've heard Jamie Foxx tell this once, that he's talking to Will, and Will.
Are they tight or not?
Yeah, they are tight.
Okay.
So he's talking to Will, and but Will's basically giving him the business and he goes, dude, like he does this role, he's incredible at it, and then he goes, all right, so what's next? And he's telling him, he just got the script for Booty Call 2 or something stupid, and whatever it was, and he basically was like, dude, what is wrong with you? And he
Will
goes,
Smith told this.
Yeah. To Jamie Foxx. He goes, what is wrong with you? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, why are you in this business? He goes, I'm in it to to do well and make a lot of money. And he goes, no. If you're in this business, you're in this business to be great. He says, and you're great. You're an actual triple threat. Like you actually can sing. You actually can concert play piano, and you can actually act your ass off, and you're really a quadruple threat because you're actually a funny freaking stand-up comic. What the f*** is wrong with you? Like just gives him the riot act.
Good for Will.
And he says after that he really never forgot that conversation. And
That's a good friend.
Yeah, that's a good friend. Exactly.
That's a good friend.
And he says, and after that is when he got the offer to do Ray. and he never looked back. Won an Oscar, and he's become one of America's most beloved actors.
He is a phenomenal.
Yeah, but
You can hold him there with Denzel.
Oh yeah, but if Will didn't give him the riot act.
Who knows if he?
Yeah, I think it's also a stretch too, Chris. Yeah, because Denzel is another beast altogether. Him and Morgan Freeman. There's a handful of actors that you're like,
You're talking the elite.
You're talking rare air.
He's got to earn just a little more before that happens.
Yeah.
Like Denzel just keeps directing, producing, starring in amazing films that somehow end up really resonating in
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Jamie Foxx in any way, shape, or form. I think he is phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And one of my truly favorite actors. And ever since I saw Any Given Sunday, I'm like, I will see anything you ever do.
Yeah, I can't.
Any Given
I can't
Sunday,
disagree with you on
Any
Denzel.
Given Sunday changed my mind about whether or not he was really a real actor.
That last
He's
scene,
probably the best black actor that we've had in our time.
The last scene where they're at the Cowboys
I can't think of
Stadium,
anybody better.
where he thinks he's talking to Al Pacino, and he throws the ball, and he's like, if my mind was a little sudden, he turns around and realizes he's gone. And the look on his face to know that this game is brutal and you have no time and nobody gives a crap about you.
Right.
Was one of the most amazing scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Absolutely.
It was brutal.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about, just talking about, like I said, last thing, and then I got to move forward. But if you think about our probably two of the most beloved black actors right now, Will Smith and Jamie Foxx. Nobody would have thought Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, would have been possibly the biggest actor in the world. Like, nobody would have figured that.
But don't you think in some way that he's in a weird way, the Black Tom Hanks? Because Tom Hanks was a stand-up comedian who went to Bosom Buddies and all of a sudden becomes renowned actor.
But you wouldn't have thought that. You wouldn't have thought that if you saw Bosom Buddies.
No, Bosom Buddies. I mean, it's Peter Scolari.
You wouldn't have thought that if you saw Bosom Buddies. And for the same thing, when you're watching the Jamie Foxx show or the aforementioned Booty Call, you would not have ever thought Jamie Foxx would be the actor that he is.
But that's evolution.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because you have to start somewhere, and then you learn your trade.
Yeah, you learn your craft.
Because that's a trade.
Oh yeah,
very much so. These guys are craftsmen. They learn their craft. They watch, and the only way you learn your craft is that they had their mind opened up, that they watched a lot of people and they watched a lot of things, and they did their due diligence and they studied, and they became good at their craft. As a company that runs craftsmen, I appreciate that. I look for that in people. That's something that just is huge with me. I appreciate somebody that's earned their craft.
I would never disagree with you, and I would agree with you.
You would disagree with me?
No.
I can't believe you disagree with me on anything.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. What I would say, though, that is different about Hollywood as to other industries is that you are not the one who gets the say. You can be the best craftsman in the world. You can be the greatest actor in the world. And there have been a lot of great actors who never got the chance to make it big.
You're in the business. You know better than I can't.
But that's very true. There's
I can't argue that.
Phenomenal actors that just did not get the opportunity.
They kissed their ass, or maybe they were conservative.
Yeah, I mean,
did I say that? Did I?
I mean, honestly, I think with acting, I mean, there's so many factors. I mean, you can't like if you're not in particularly handsome leading man type, it takes the right role for you to really be able to break through.
You're a character actor.
Because you are a character actor.
You're John C. Reilly,
who's a phenomenal actor.
Love him.
But he's rarely going to be the lead in anything,
Well, I went out for Jack Reacher, and they just told me I was too old. But I'm the right size to be Jack Reacher, not that little pipsqueak Tom Cruise.
But it's looks, it's luck, it is craft. There's no doubt. And it's networking your ass off and having a phenomenal agent who gets you into the pitches. I mean, it takes a lot of things to go to. I mean, we just being in the industry just even a little bit, you're discounted automatically just because of how you look a lot of times. It's like, that's not the thing we're ever
Yeah,
going
yeah,
for.
he
And
doesn't.
that has nothing to do with craft. Or it's like, dude, come on, you do construction.
Doesn't fit the
I
look.
can't argue that. I can't argue
I
that.
don't care what you look like. Just get yours out
You
there.
can be ugly as a bulldog's ass. If you're a good carpenter, you're in with me, buddy.
In fact, I was looking at your copper house on
Lake Quivira.
Lake Quivira the other day, and I was like, oh my god, I love this house. So I mean, that's phenomenal work, and that's craftsmanship.
Yes, it is.
And that will speak for you.
Absolutely. That's legacy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
All right, so here we go. First on the list, Erin Hernandez. So, what goes through your mind when you beat a double murder charge and then you kill yourself?
Well, you still have the other murder
charge, right?
He was never getting
He's
out of
already
jail.
in jail for
I think
murder.
I can answer that. I think I can answer that quite well. Being a Chiefs fan first and the Patriots fan second, because the Chiefs always get to the playoffs and then the Patriots take the rest away. So I always got my end of year team, right? Just saying. Come on, Chiefs, let's get it done this year.
I'll give you that.
Hey, by the way, I'm going Thursday night. Chiefs Patriots.
Oh,
NFL kickoff with Lane and Franny.
All right.
Boom.
All right.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, we're gonna have
And
fun.
last time we whooped their ass so bad it wasn't even.
Well, they took me to Army Navy. I owed them one. So, anyhow, I think reality all of a sudden probably came to dawn on Erin Hernandez how bad he fucked himself up. Because he couldn't get away from the people he ran with. And we've seen this in the NFL how many times. Somebody with enormous talent that couldn't get rid of their shitty posse. And
Are you
he
talking about
really...
Bam Morris?
Huh?
Are you talking about Bam Morris by chance?
Yeah, there's one of them, a former Chiefs player that, you know, some of these guys could have really done a lot of good in the world, you know.
Yeah.
They're the opposite of the Derek Johnson. You look at Derek Johnson, you know, that guy, he's good as gold, he's going to be a Chief for life, you know, everybody in this town's going to love him, or Big Pappy playing for the Red Sox, you know, or Yaz, or any of those. The legends of sports figured it out. These guys did not.
Yeah.
And he pissed away how much money, he pissed away how much fame, he pissed away it all.
Didn't he have like a $50
And even
million contract?
even though he beat the rap, it said they had John 3:16 that he wrote on his forehead.
Well, he only beat one rap.
Right,
Yeah.
because he had three
Well,
murder
but
charges.
he had the first murder. He was guilty. I mean,
Yeah, he was guilty. He was in.
guilty
He
of
wasn't
all
coming
three of them.
out.
In all honesty, he was guilty of all three of them. He
Yeah,
wrapped up.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the point was, I really think the dawn of reality struck the man. And for some reason in prison, maybe he started reading the Bible, and even though the Bible certainly wouldn't teach you to commit suicide.
No.
I
At
don't
all.
think he was reading the Bible at all.
I think it dawned on him and he hung himself.
I think he's a coward, and I think he knew.
So anybody who commits suicide's a coward.
No,
in my book.
I don't think so. But
That's how I
think-
see it. That's just me.
And I get it, and I understand that point because there's a lot of people that feel that way.
Um,
I don't feel that way because I think there's a lot of people who live with so much personal pain that I'm not going to tell somebody, if you have a right to life, you have a right to die. And so I can't. I'm not going to judge somebody's pain level.
It is hard to judge them, but
I completely
it's
understand
still
your point.
tough.
It is, and I get that 1,000%. What I think is he probably realized, okay, congratulations for winning. Let's see what happens. If I win, maybe I get out on the other one. You know,
No.
and there's a way out, and then when there is no hope left of getting out.
Yeah, you know, right? You know, you're in jail for the rest of your life.
And that dude, I just think, just took probably the easy way out for him at that point.
Sure, it was
Yeah.
an easy way out.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the coward's way out.
Yeah.
And I don't think suicide is always the coward's way out. I think in his case it was.
Yeah, I think in his case it was.
I
But
had a
I,
couple
don't, yeah,
suicides
I
in my
agree
family.
that I don't think it's always
I have
the coward.
suicides.
I had a
with
couple
friends.
suicides in my family, and they were cousins. And I had trouble. I've had trouble forgiving because they really neither one of them had a reason to kill themselves, in my opinion.
But
they
that's where
they just let the world crawl in on them a little too hard, and didn't fight through it. And I'm a survivor. I don't. It's hard for me to understand that because if you commit suicide, you made yourself a victim.
No,
And I don't do victimhood very well.
I think there's a lot of biological things that go along with it. For a lot of people, I think you can have very severe mental depression.
I think there's some of that.
Very legitimate illnesses. I had a good friend of mine come in my room when we were roommates in the middle of the night and threatened to kill himself at 2 a.m. with a gun to his head. And luckily, I got him drugged up enough to take him to a hospital and lock him up for a while. And he's still alive. But he would not have been a coward for killing himself. He had a really rough life, and it was terrible. And I'm like, I don't understand your pain, but I know that you are in serious pain, and I can't even begin to understand it.
Yeah.
I would not have called him a coward. Erin Hernandez, I believe, was a
Yeah,
coward only because he didn't want to take the consequences
of his actions.
of everything else that happened.
I've got a really good friend who's tried a couple times, and last serious conversation I had with him, he was just like, thank God that I finally got treatment and they finally got my medications levels right. And so I know that there are.
I can't disagree with that.
I know that there are other factors.
Yeah. Even that's a guess.
Yeah.
Even that mental health right now is a guess. It is doctors guessing what medication will work for you. It takes a very long time to actually take effect.
Yeah.
And then if it's the wrong one, you start all over again.
Yeah.
And then what happens to a lot of people is that they say, feeling way better. This
And then they
medication
stop
worked,
taking
I'm
it.
cured, so they stop taking the medicine, and all of a sudden they're back to where they were, and you're in a really rough spot. And I don't feel comfortable judging people and saying that. In this particular case, I think he just knew.
Yeah.
And the consequences are what they are.
Dawn of reality dawned on him.
I think so.
He had a little too much shit come on him. And
I honestly think there was a point in time where maybe by winning this case, he thought he would get out of the other one.
Yeah.
Because they were similar,
Yeah.
related.
Yeah.
And I think he just realized this isn't going to happen. And I don't want any part of this.
I don't want to do this.
tough subject.
Yeah,
And you know what?
it is tough.
I do believe that if you believe in the right to life, you should believe in the right to die. And so, your life is your life. Do what you want with that. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's you and your maker to have to
address it at some point.
Yeah.
Like I said, I see when older people do it, I actually have a little more compassion.
Because of the pain involved.
I've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Or my wife.
My
wife's totally gone with Alzheimer's, and I'm not doing very well. And they do these murder-suicides. They're tragic stories.
Yeah.
But when you look at them, you kind of understand them a little bit. But it's still, I don't know. My Christian belief, I have trouble with it. But I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say I haven't got there because I was at a real low point in my life one time, and I wondered if taking myself out wasn't a better option. But my strong belief wouldn't let me do it.
Clearly, it would not.
But when you're a drug addict and you're hooked on drugs and you're on the street, that thought will enter your head.
Oh yeah.
Because you're on the bottom rung, and you guys have both heard me talk about you're going to either let go or you're going to reach up and hit the next rung.
And seriously, that's
a hard point to be at. If you let go, you're probably, if you're not dead by your own hands, you're going to be dead.
Yeah,
I would agree.
By your addiction.
The strange things aren't even the ones that bother me the most. The ones that bother me the most are people with legitimate mental illnesses that I cannot begin to understand.
I never had a mental illness. I was just a loser.
And I've known a lot of you and I both. Shit.
I'm a little crazy, but that has nothing to do with mental illness.
But I do think that there are people who just suffer from a pain that I just can't begin to understand, and not because of drugs or anything.
And I don't want to understand that type of pain, really, because I don't want to let myself go that dark.
And I don't either, but I do believe that they're in that
There are
spot.
people that do,
And those people, I understand why they do what they do.
Yeah. All right. Next on my list,
Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly. Yes. And I'm going to use Bill O'Reilly finally getting fired by Fox News. I personally believe Bill O'Reilly should have been fired a lot of years ago, and not even do because I think to my knowledge, the stuff that we're finding out about the sexual harassment and stuff is newer information for me. But, some of the insanely racist and sexist rants that he would go on air were just asinine, to say the least. And I couldn't believe that they were keeping him on air as long as they kept him on air. But, apparently with the amount of charges and accusers that were starting to stack up, it was just becoming untenable for Fox.
Well, I think what really happened, to be honest, was, and again, I'm going to throw this out, I think racist and sexist is a matter of opinion. I think you can talk about race and sex without being racist or sexist, and I don't know where he falls in the spectrum. I thought he was reasonably somewhere in the middle sometimes. I thought he actually kind of did a reasonably decent job.
He would sometimes hit both sides of the story.
Splitting the story. But what I would say is, the bigger issue here is that Fox is under investigation by the FCC because SEC, for not disclosing that they paid $42 million to settle Roger Ailes' charges. And now you have Bill O'Reilly following up on this with paying out $13 million in legal fees. And so all of a sudden you're wondering, what the hell is going on over at Fox? Is this a culture that you guys are creating? And are we going to have to keep dealing with this? And beyond that, they paid him $25 million to leave.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to how much money he was making for that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and I'll tell you, the golden rule is, as soon as you stop making money for people, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
You're done.
I mean, now that I did know. I mean, I knew that his ratings were phenomenal and all of that.
The biggest in nighttime cable and news.
Yeah.
And in fact, always in the top 10 of nightly cable shows.
Yeah. So
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Now, I will vehemently disagree. Being the kind of person that I am, I try to keep my ear to. A lot of people say that they try to listen to both sides of the story,
Sure.
and they try to, and I really do. One, that's just kind of my nature. Two, especially
To be a good host.
doing a show of my own, I want to be as informed as I can be. Sure. And but Bill O'Reilly was just one of those guys that, for years, I had been watching him and hearing the things that he would say, and I was often blown away. Now, on the other side of that, I could see how he was likable. I could definitely see.
It's bombastic. And
Yeah. I could see like if
in the books.
Yeah, like I say,
the books are pretty good.
Yeah, like when he did, other people's shows, like he did the View, and he did like I could see how people liked him.
He went to David Letterman.
Yeah, but
he's on Jon Stewart.
But I could.
He exposed himself to other views.
Yeah, which he definitely did. I will give him that.
And I thought he represented that reasonably well. And I also thought for Fox in particular, is if you think of Fox as a channel, you had Megyn Kelly, who I thought was pretty balanced and pretty smart, good lawyer, and actually did a lot to bring down Fox now, and didn't put up with a lot of the shenanigans, and was in fact, I wouldn't say anti-Republican, but did a lot to say, hey, let's get the other side out on the Democratic side during the election. I would say Sean Hannity is just a complete kiss ass who does nothing.
No, he's right and right
He's
over.
this ridiculous American. To tell somebody you're a good American, who the hell are you to say you're a good American or not? You don't even know. You're not qualified to say that.
Exactly.
Now,
Why have they made you judge and juror? Bill O'Reilly, I thought, was somewhere in the middle. Bombastic. He had the personality and all the other stuff, and did stuff just for ratings, I think. But once you're starting to find out all the things that happen, I'm like, holy shit, you had been fired from any company years ago.
Oh, exactly. Hey, what's going on, podcasters? Let's acknowledge the good friends of the Loft Party Podcast. The majestic restaurant and Pendergast Club, carrying on Kansas City's tradition of great food and great jazz, 931 Broadway in Kansas City, Missouri. The J. Rieger Kansas City Distillery, whiskey, gin, vodka. That is, oh so good. And friend of the podcast and panelist, Lane Boland, managing to keep the podcast going. Apparently wealthy or not. Now onto our regularly scheduled program.
and the thing about Bill O'Reilly, I started listening to Bill O'Reilly when he was doing his radio show. And he wasn't on TV yet. And his radio show was kind of interesting. Because he did mix it up, and like I said, he would go after Republicans on certain things and saying, hey, this is bullshit, you aren't doing a good job at this needs to be done, or that needs to be done.
Even after McCain, like crazy.
Yeah, and so, he went after Palin like crazy.
Yeah, well, that's why.
Now that's the one thing I did like about Bill O'Reilly. Politically, he definitely did his best a balancing act as I think you can do for five.
What's the racist and sexist stuff that you think that he actually threw out there in the world?
Just going back, and I hate to.
Well, he's after Chicago a lot.
I hate to say, well, one, yes, he was after Chicago a lot, but it wasn't.
But Chicago's corrupt as hell. And
But it wasn't purely because he went after. Like, I don't think anybody's in particularly racist or sexist because they bring they bring an alternative viewpoint to a position that, maybe other people either don't want to or don't know how to touch well.
Sure.
He did a lot of. It was really kind of the same kind of stuff that Cosby was starting to do, toward the last few years of his career. A lot of the I call it, victim blaming. A lot of the well, if you wouldn't have all these out of wedlock kids if you pull your fucking pants up, or if you it was these.
But I don't know.
Those legitimate points, though.
But that's some veiled racist language. It really is, and I know it's difficult to. Being a minority, there's stuff that you see and you hear your whole life, and you know it. Mm-hmm. But it's more difficult to explain it because it's something you know in your gut. Like,
Okay.
For example, the anonymous female and I, we went to this Italian restaurant one time, right? And here in Kansas City, and she was like, "Oh, this is such good food, and it's right downtown." And so we go in there one time with another guy we know for lunch, and it's packed in there, and it's fine. It's fine. We had great lunch and and everything. And then we tried to go back one time for dinner, and there was almost nobody in there, and it was one of those. There's conversation, and then we walk in, and because the record spun back.
Scratched.
Yeah, the record scratched. Nobody's talking at all, and everybody's kind of looking at you with these uneasy smiles, and that's all they're doing. Like, nobody's talking. Everybody's looking at.
What restaurant?
I don't even want to give them.
Okay.
I don't even want to give them any
Power and
publicity.
Light restaurant?
No, going toward
Down further south.
Grand, going toward
All right.
going toward Grand Slam. So we go in there, and I immediately know they don't want us here. And the anonymous female is like, she was like, oh, well, you know, but even to her, after a while, it's weird. And we hadn't gotten our order taken yet, or anything like that. And I was just like, we should go. And then she was like, no, we can't let people chase us out. I said, no, they're not chasing me out.
Right.
I says, but I know.
I choose not to do business.
Yeah.
You want to have a nice
Exactly.
dining experience, and you're not having
and I'm not.
a nice dining experience.
Exactly. And so I'm choosing to not give them my money.
Okay, so can I throw something out here which I don't know is right, wrong, or indifferent, and this is where I always feel we go south sometimes. Because we always talk about everybody's perspective.
Yeah.
So I do believe that there is a perspective sometimes amongst minorities that they are getting bad treatment because they're minorities. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that sometimes that is true. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that a lot of times it's just an accident of something that is a coincidence where this is just bizarre a little bit. Yeah. And so...
And I always try to give that benefit of the doubt, where, there may be, like if you get served last, even if your order was taken first.
I had that experience today at lunch.
Yeah, I always try to think, is it just busy in here? Right. Like I always try to give the benefit of the doubt. Right. But there are times when you absolutely know, okay, this is not busy. This is not busy. This is not something else.
When you're positive, this is the issue.
Yeah, and they don't have to say it, but it's a gut feeling that you can't really always explain.
And you would put Bill Riley in that category.
I've heard him say on a dozen occasions something that I knew was dog whistle.
Even though he interviewed the president twice, and I thought he did a very fair interview. It was a good interview.
Now, I will say this. I don't think everybody that does racist stuff feels in their heart that they are racist.
They're racist.
They think they're reporting as they see it.
Exactly. But their perspective...
They're coming at it from a racist perspective.
Exactly. And they don't even realize that. And that's what I got from Bill Riley.
And this is what I have a hard time with, because this is where we've always, the crux of the show will always come to this, because I love this topic.
Yeah.
I really do, and it's the one time that we ever get to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, if you don't come at it from a racist point of view, mm-hmm. does that still make it racist? If you honestly believe that what you're saying is legitimate and has a rational viewpoint,
yes.
Does that still make it racist to you, or is it just you think that person doesn't understand the racism? And is it the person who's interpreting the racism, or is it the person who's saying racist things and not knowing what they're saying?
I definitely think it's the person that's saying or doing racist things, and they may not even know or realize that what they're saying has the implications that it does. For example, I think that a lot of people do and a lot of people don't think that that Trump is racist. I don't know if I necessarily think that
I don't think he
is racist. And I don't just mean racist against black people racist, I just mean in generally. But I do think that some of the things that he says and does are racist. And he may not even realize.
Racist in what sense? Racist like he just lumps people together and says as a commonality, this is what I think about you? Or racist in the sense that I have a bias against your particular race. So it could be.
I think in Trump's case, it's the former, and not the latter.
And maybe so. And let me give you an example. So I would say, Chicago truly does have a crime problem.
Yes,
they really do, and it is basically 90% black on black crime, and it's generally located on the south side of town.
And west side.
Less so on the west side.
That's where the competing gangs are, right, Rio?
I think right now
the drug gangs are south side and west side competing.
It's basically on the south side, and they're fighting over Mexico.
The most of the killings that you're hearing about are south side.
Yeah, that's what you're. That is what you're. When you hear 23.
I mean, you do hear a lot of stuff that happens on the west side, but I think right now
I think it's spreading this a little bit, but really, we're talking about controlling the Mexican drug trade coming from Mexico into Chicago and being spread out, and this is where we hear about the crime. So that's not a racist problem to me. That's a drug problem to me. Yeah, that is a huge.
You talked about that before.
Yeah,
and so to talk about that and say, okay, Chicago has a real crime problem. Yeah, they do. There's a lot of murders there. A lot of murders. Yeah. That becomes an issue, but it's not a racist issue to me. It's a drug issue to me. Yeah. The guy has zero problem with awesome black dudes who just want to go to work and just be cool. I really have a huge problem with black dudes who want to be in gangs and want to fight each other, but there are just as many white gangs who are trying to fight each other and do all that over drug.
I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me this weekend. We had intermission at the Symphony, and we're all standing in line in the bathroom to take a leak. And they had one trash can over here, and a black guy turned around and went to throw his paper, his towel and he missed. Mm-hmm. And me with my smart ass coming right off the top of my head before I even thought what my mouth said. I said, "You're supposed to be better than, you're supposed to be good at this."
Oh shit.
And it instantly came to me, that was probably one of the most insensitive, stupid things I ever said. I didn't think. It was just, I would have made it, it just, black dude, you're supposed to be able to play basketball, you should have made a basket. And that was really a stupid thing to say. And did I say it in a racist tone?
Well, which is actually my point exactly.
That was a stupid thing. And I'm not racist at all.
Well, exactly. Like you weren't trying, and which is my point. I think a lot of times people aren't necessarily trying to be racist.
I was trying to be funny.
But what
came off wrong?
Yeah, but it either comes off wrong, or said at the exact wrong time, or just not knowing your audience, because this
that has bothered me for days.
Because this guy, I'm sure
I was bending down to pick it up for him.
Yeah, but I'm sure this guy is has spent the next day or two going, "I can't believe this motherfucker said to me."
Yeah. And he doesn't know that I was saying to myself, that was really fucking stupid. Even though I was trying to do something to help him, because I bent down to pick it up.
Yeah.
And he put his hand on my shoulder. I got it.
I think he's also had a lifetime of living with this stereotype. Every black dude is great at basketball, and it's ridiculous.
Well, and I think, but I guess, and that's what I mean is that sometimes it's not racist because you were doing or saying something that you directly meant to hurt somebody. It's just sometimes it's doing or saying something
that was funny and it wasn't. Funny.
That wasn't funny, or it was and playing into the stereotypes, and then it creates an anger that doesn't need to be created.
I'm at the Symphony.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all dressed. We're looking good, and these people don't go to the Symphony. I think somebody that is in love with Tubac generally is going to go to the Symphony. You know,
Not necessarily true.
not necessarily true.
Not necessarily true.
But you kind of get.
Cause
you get my gist.
Because actually, I know a couple dudes who are like serious street rappers that love musicals. They love musicals.
But
and
you
shit
get
like
my
that,
gist of what I'm saying.
No, I absolutely know what you're saying.
You know, I see that as a person of some class.
Yeah.
This is what I might throw out. Just,
You know, because he enjoyed the music that he went to see, and he was a well-dressed man. And I just felt like I told a cat. I really did. It hit me within seconds. I went, oh, jeez.
And listen, this is what I would throw out is that guy has probably been through more in his life to get to where he is than any one of us could ever appreciate. And that, I think, inadvertently could be construed as a racist statement. And I know you're not racist at all.
But I sort of said something stupid that night.
And dude, we've all done it. So
Oh, yeah, we've all stepped on ourselves that way.
I've said that to Irish people, said it to Germans, I've said it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I absolutely
I
know.
It's a stereotype for everybody. What I would say is, I don't know that once you start getting on TV, you're starting to talk about classes of people. You're not talking about individual stories anymore.
Right.
You're talking about classes of people.
Yeah.
And this is when I do have a real problem. When you start talking and generalizing about large groups of people as if they're all the same. So, for example, take Hillary. Like, everybody thought, well, why wouldn't any woman vote for Hillary? She's a female liberal.
Yeah.
Or Obama. Why wouldn't any black dude vote for Obama? Like, that's ridiculous. You know, he's the first black president.
Yeah.
Well, there are legitimate reasons to not vote for Obama, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean,
and
yeah.
there were legitimate reasons to not vote for Hillary, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Although, I did vote for both of them. I wanted them to win only for the reason that I wanted to not be an issue.
Yeah, look,
Right.
I got a homegirl that we were talking and she said to me, I know you're probably a Democrat or whatever, and she says, what would you think of a black Republican? And I was like, I don't know if I think anything, but I would ask why.
What about Colin Powell?
I admire Colin Powell. I like Colin Powell. So
I voted for Condoleezza Rice in a second.
yeah. So and
Scott from South Carolina.
I mean,
The lady from Utah.
oh my God! I mean,
There's
well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I was like, I would ask
That doesn't make
why, but I wouldn't judge you. If you.
That doesn't make
she
them
was
less-
like, what would you think of a black person that voted for Trump? And I said, same thing. I would ask why, but you obviously had your reasons. She said, well, what would I tell you? What would you say if I told you I voted for Trump? I said, same thing. I would ask you why. There had to be a reason that you voted for Trump and not Hillary or some other candidate. But I don't have an issue with.
she couldn't have been part of the 8%. I mean, let's be honest. Like, it was 8%.
Yeah.
Well, my problem is does that make him any less black?
No, and I guess that was my thing. It was like, my first question.
There's a bit of an issue there with the community,
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, but I think that's I think the problem with, like you say, talking about any mass community thing is
Right.
you're generalizing too much, and you're making a monolith out of something that isn't monolithic, and so I mean, if you were to think that every white guy is a left conservative or a right conservative, it wouldn't be true, and so you have to know the person and the circumstance to understand why they do what they do, how they vote.
When 98% of the population votes for Obama, when 98% of the black population casts their vote for Obama,
Yeah.
that's a different matter. And I think that is less about issues and infinitely more about race at that point, and that's when I started to get concerned. And if the same thing had happened with women,
Yeah.
With Hillary, if all of a sudden you had 98% of women voting for Hillary,
Yeah.
I would have been as equally as concerned because I'm like, you're not actually taking the issues into account, and you're not looking for the best candidate. You're looking for, and I will admit, I wanted Obama because I wanted a black president because I wanted that to not be an issue anymore.
Yeah.
I voted for Hillary because I wanted that to not be an issue anymore, that we don't have a woman president.
Right.
I find those things ridiculous and historically inaccurate, even though I didn't think they were the best candidates. Although I thought she was clearly better than Trump. But what I would say is 98% of the black population voted for Obama.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point, you're not thinking.
No, look, I know plenty.
That's ridiculous.
I know plenty of people, white and black for that matter,
Sure.
that voted for Obama for one reason.
I
They voted for him because he was the first viable black
I
presidential
voted
candidate.
for him because I wanted the first black
yeah,
president.
You heard me
I
say
will
this.
give you that.
You know, I was proud. I didn't vote for Obama, but I was proud we elected a black president. That's good for our country.
Yeah.
That's one point. One other point I had to make, and I know we got to move on, is that when we had the girls in here, and they had a lot of interesting things to say. Mm-hmm. But they said one thing that bothered me. When I talked about the fact that I've been hiring some inner city kids again.
Yeah.
And they said, and I said, they got to learn how to work in my world a little bit differently than what they're used to coming from. And they do.
Yeah.
But then she turned around and said, well, you're making that black kid work in a white world. That bothered me. That has sat in my craw a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you know the funny.
Am I really making that black kid work in the white world, or am I making that black kid work in the construction world?
Yeah. Well, you know the funny thing is, I actually thought about that, after the show.
So did it bother you a little bit?
Well, I understood where they were coming from, and I don't know if they phrased it properly, but in a way, with women or minorities, it's you. In a way, you are kind of training some qualities out of them in order for them to fit better into
to survive in that world.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And I don't necessarily think that in order for somebody to survive in the construction world, they have to be properly trained. They have to know how to work and maneuver in that world.
But they don't have to lose their culture, and I told them that.
Yeah, and
it doesn't mean you lose your culture.
Yeah,
it just means that you have to be different in this world.
Well, let me ask you
if you're going to have success in it, you have to learn how to work in it, and it's a different world. You can't go out there in the construction world and speak hardcore robotics. They're not going to understand you. They're just not. And this isn't a racist thing; it's a reality.
No. Let me ask you this.
So that was the one thing that bothered me about that, and I wanted to bring that up one more time.
It's a fair point, because this is my question to you, because I honestly don't know, because I do not have your perspective, and I do not understand all the experiences you've been through and your take on the world. Is it weird? Because most of the time when white guys talk to each other, they're like, yeah, this guy. And then when we talk about somebody else, it's like, oh yeah, my black friend and this guy did this. Is that weird? Like, that would be so weird to me if you were talking to somebody else and you're like, oh yeah, my white friend Chrissy did this kind of thing. That would be so weird to me. I'd be like, really? Is that a differentiator between us? Yeah. Just so you understand my perspective and what's going on? Like, that would freak me out a little bit,
Well, the funny thing is, to answer your question, I think people do it all the time. I think why is the real question, because and that's always my starting question is why. Because
that's a good start.
There has to be a reason why. Like, for me, I'll start telling a story, and I want to paint a picture of who I'm talking about, And so I won't be like, oh, so yeah, and the dude, blah, 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 blah. But my white friend, Chris, like I won't do that. But at some point of the description of Chris, I have to say that he's an Irish guy, so that
Sure.
because look,
Because all of a sudden it explains a lot more when you get the cultural context.
Exactly.
It's our identifier.
And so it's for me, it's just an identifier.
It's an identifier.
It's if you're saying that this person, this amorphous person did this, and then you're like, okay, and you're trying to understand, and then you go, oh yeah, so it was my friend, so it was my friend Tracy. Oh, okay, so it was a woman, but I'm a black guy telling a story, so you may be thinking it's my black girlfriend Tracy, and then I say, oh no, she's a redhead Irish chick, and she, okay, now the details of what you're saying are making more sense to me.
Well, let me tell you something interesting that's happened over the weekend. I hired Jabril, who had worked for me before, who came from my friend Reggie Hines, who is a mentor that does a lot of things with Boys Hope, Girls Hope, and he calls him Uncle Reggie. When he came to me, worked the first time, didn't have the maturity, fell back into the hood a little bit. The sad story of his house got shot up with his mom in it and him in it. So it kind of snapped him. I got to take care of my mom. I got to get out of here. So he kind of gained some maturity out of that stunning event that most of us can't imagine. I've had 5 of his friends call me wanting work now. And I find this interesting because that tells me that they haven't been able to find the avenue. And when a couple of them find the avenue, then it's kind of like, look, this is a great job.
Yeah.
I got a guy gives a shit about me. He's paying me $13 an hour. You can't make that anywhere else. As long as they got the transportation, then that's the one thing they got to have, and that's the most difficult thing. You've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
And they get to work.
Yeah. Can you get to work? Yeah.
Can you get to work? But they want the jobs. So there are Americans out there that want jobs. There's a lot of inner city kids that want decent jobs.
And
they want to work their way out of it. Now, can they once again get over? I can only work so much, or I'll lose myself. Can they get past the point where I'm going to become self-efficient upon myself, where I'm going to work a job for 40 hours a week, and I'm going to learn the trade, and I'm going to make more money in this trade, and I'm going to come up in it.
Well, the funny thing is, it actually, before I move on, because we got a couple more topics real quick.
This is a good talk.
But I will say, it kind of goes back to Chicago and some of the problems happening in Chicago. Years ago, there used to be like summer jobs for teens and other things that kids could be doing, and now, they're kind of left to the devices of kind of the normal job market, and
they can't get construction because that's all Latino work.
What's like, so if you're not able to get decent work, you wind up
hustling
and doing things that you just shouldn't be.
You're hustling.
And so when you get caught up in the business, hustling and doing whatever, it's hard to get out because, like I say, that money's coming fast, and the money's coming fast, and the girls are coming faster. And
I understand it 100%.
But I guess it's a different kind of issue. Like what I think is like, in a weird way, I've never started a story with, my black friend Mario did this and that, and we do the podcast and blah blah blah.
Yeah. And I've never done that either. So I don't understand what you're saying.
So it's weird when you're friends with people, when you're actually friends with people, and you care about them quite a bit. It's when it becomes a larger scale kind of a thing.
Right.
There's never been a moment in my life where I've started with, my black friend Mario did this. Like, no, that would be different. And so I'm like, if there was a moment where I ever shared a story with my white friend, blah blah blah, or, my Chinese friend, this and that,
right.
But well, now the story is just completely weird.
Yeah.
Like
if I can tell that in me telling the story, you need more context. I may give you more context clues as to what I'm talking about, or who I'm talking about. If there's a moment
where it's applicable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you do a lot of like rap music and soul music and stuff, and when you're mixing your beats and doing all that, I'm like, this is what Myra does. Yeah. And so, but when you're just talking about somebody in normal because you're friends,
right?
That's completely different to me. And that is,
I usually talk about like I always.
That's the moment that's never happened. Which is really weird. And I was just thinking about that. I was like, I had never described you as, Myra's my black friend, so this is the thing. Right. Because it makes it seem like you're just being patronistic or whatever the case.
Right.
I have a black friend too, so oh my god.
Oh, wow.
This is great.
Oh, you have black friends.
Congratulations.
Right.
Like you get an award for it. Like you just won a free dinner at a steakhouse or something. I'm like, this is just so dumb. That's when I have a problem. That's when I'm like, this is when you're thinking about race way too much. Yeah. I like having racial conversations because I do believe there are large racial issues in the world.
Right.
But when it comes to your friends, it's weird. Like all of a sudden it becomes completely different. Mm-hmm. And it's the way that people think of schools. So there is a study that says almost every American thinks that the public school system is really fucked up. Mm-hmm. Terrible. Public schools are awful. Nobody likes them. But ask them about their own school.
Right.
And it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Their school is amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
It's the other schools that suck really bad.
Exactly.
And then I feel the same way about just this conversation. I'm like, no, it's just schools, friends, whatever the case is.
Yeah, these are my friends.
Just hanging out.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And
exactly.
So for 52 weeks out of the year, I come and do this, and I love it. And I like that we can talk about racial stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not my black friend Mario. It's just my friend Mario, and we do this.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I really do like about this.
Yeah. And I love about this myself. All right, so let's move forward. A couple more things on the list that will probably cut slightly shorter, but I was wondering what everybody's thoughts were on the Cleveland shooter. This kind of gets back to the whole mental health conversation, and I'm really torn as to what to feel about the Cleveland shooter. One, I think what he did was despicable. And
almost beyond despicable.
Yeah, and I think what he did was, I think what he did was despicable. But at the, I remember a few months ago there were these kids that were hanging out with actually a friend, and then they wound up binding him up and torturing the kid. And
I remember that.
And later on, I found out that all of those kids were special needs kids, and they all had mental issues, and well, at least all of the guys, because there were a couple of girls there.
Dude, I can go with that as far as you don't hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
I am willing to go along with I have mental issues, I have special needs, I have all these other things, right up to the point to where you hurt somebody else. This is why I'm less concerned about suicide, strangely. If you are mentally ill and you kill yourself. Yeah. I get it. You probably are in a world of pain, and that probably hurts really bad. When you hurt other people,
yes,
then
just for the sake of hurting them.
I have a very sincere problem with that, and that I just think you deserve the worst punishment in the world.
I don't think even if they had issues.
They know.
Where's your morality at all? You know, that's what hurt me about that, is that there somewhere there was a they knew right and wrong there. They knew what they did was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't that far gone with their special issues that they didn't know what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah, and
that's
where
let yourself slip to that dark side.
Yeah, and that's where I am with the Cleveland guys. Like, you know, what I've kind of heard is that he had some mental issues but yeah, how you let yourself slip to that darker place where you
put it on Facebook.
Where you're doing random acts.
And I think Facebook needs to look at this.
You know, and I do think that there's a special place in I think there's a special place in jail or hell for people who hurt kids and hurt old people.
And I think you know what you're doing is wrong. Yeah, I don't care how mentally ill you are, you still know that hurting somebody else is wrong. You do know that. You know that it's wrong in advance, and you still continue to do it. And that's something like that I'm not okay with.
And then in this case, you know, getting back to the suicide thing, you know, this is one of those cases where I felt like, you know, it was a cowardly act, you know, because he took off to Pennsylvania and
why did he take off?
Yeah, exactly.
Knew it was wrong.
All I got to say about that is, save the taxpayers dollars. I hate to say it that way, but, you know.
Yeah.
I have no issue with him killing himself. That sorry son of a bitch needed to die.
Listen,
I don't care what issues he had. He did something so bad that you no longer are even going to have any substance to human society at all. You have tripped over to the dark side of the devil so bad that you are toast.
Take your responsibility or make the responsibility happen on your own. He clearly, that person knew it was wrong, and that's why they took off. You don't take off if you don't think it's wrong.
If you don't think it's wrong.
Somebody who's
I think about the teacher with the 15-year-old girl.
Another dark side.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, you don't. If you're in love, you don't go off on the run.
Right.
You know, like she may never have a cool relationship with her parents, and you may get divorced and have issues with your family. But if you're in love, but to take off and run cross country with a minor,
you ain't in love.
You know you're doing some wrong shit.
You may be in lust, and I ask you, you know, this guy was almost 50, or was he 50?
I think he was 50.
Yeah, close.
Yeah, I think he was 50 years old.
And she was 15.
All right. And so
no, that's right.
I'm thinking about your sexual issues.
Mm-hmm. And
really?
There's a lot. But I'll give you
know,
a classic example.
That to me bothers me a lot, that you would think in your mind, where did your mind go, that you would think that you could even justify this in any kind of possible way? There's no way at 50 years of age that you can justify this. In my brain, I couldn't even imagine myself even having the darkest thought that.
Don't disagree, but I'll give you the example of the opposite side. And this is somebody I think was truly mentally ill, and in a bizarre way, I can at least respect for taking the consequences. So Mark David Chapman, who killed John Lennon in 1980.
There's a lot of teachers doing this stuff nowadays.
I'm not disagreeing.
Or it's brought forward more than it used to be.
My larger point being, did not run, sat down on the steps, started reading a book, and waited for the consequences. And just said, you know what, I already knew what it was wrong, I'm just going to wait for the consequences. And that to me is very different than knowing what you're doing is wrong in advance.
Yeah.
And then avoiding the consequences, or trying to avoid the consequences altogether. Mm-hmm. That to me is 1,000% different. Listen, I remember the football game. It was the Miami Dolphins game on Monday Night Football, where Howard Cosell announced that John Lennon was murdered. Mm-hmm. You know, and that dude sat down on the steps, started reading Catcher in Their Eye, and didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, you know what? At least I'll give you that. You didn't try to duck and run. So who knows? It's slightly interesting.
All right. This really we can do, which we almost have this podcast, but we really can do a whole podcast on kind of mental health issues and all of the consequences and probably cite 100 things historically that could back any of that up, but
sure.
I definitely want to move forward. And we were going to talk about some stuff going on with the White House and everything. But I think actually I'm gonna say that for next week, because next week we will focus on the first 100 days. But in this episode where all hell broke loose, we will get to our final topic, and that is fights on a plane. What the hell is happening to these airlines where all of a sudden they're knocking people out and dragging people off? And I saw this morning, it was a mother with she had a double wide stroller, and she refused to let it go, and the flight attendant,
It wasn't a flight attendant, actually. It was like the person at the counter that came down there. He was not an attendant.
He snatched it out of her hand to check it.
Right, you have to.
Yeah, and then it's right. But I think it was handled poorly. But he was trying to do the right thing. I think it was just handled poorly. And then almost getting into a fight with a passenger.
Who happens to be a pastor.
But is it not a weird thing when, and this is my other part of prom, because passengers have a responsibility as well. So when you do something that you know is wrong, and bringing a double wide stroller down the aisleway and trying to put it in the luggage, just because you don't want to go through the security check at the end of the day and get your baggage and all that kind of stuff. No, that's absolutely wrong. So I have a feeling, or I don't know, I haven't seen the entire thing, but at some point, listen, cut it out. You know that you're doing the wrong thing. Give it up. Just give it up. They already told you you're wrong. Give it up. Give it back to the people. They'll check it for you. It's not that hard to fly. It's in fact really easy, and it's happened to me with just, there's no more baggage space available, so give them your bag. Make it happen. I'm not going to fight somebody over giving them my baggage. Just give it to them. Yeah. Just make it done.
Yeah.
I left out of Orlando today. Now, what's in Orlando?
Well, crappy world.
Disney World.
Oh, sorry. So
How many strollers got onto my plane this morning out of Orlando? I would tend to say there was probably 9 to 10 of them. Okay?
I believe it.
With their strollers. Now, here's the problem I have flying anymore. They are charging $25 for a bag. I'm like this. I flew Delta, and which I have no problems with Delta. I've always had good luck with Delta. All right. Everybody and their dog carries on these big, huge bags anymore. Why not just increase the price and tell people to check their baggage?
But that's what they do.
So the bags are free. Increase the price on the plane.
That's already true. So if you fly
because now everybody brings all that crap on the plane, and that's the biggest detriment. You know what I carried on the plane today? My iPad and a book. Because I checked my bags. Of course, my wife Pitt gave me the biggest suitcase and sent half of her clothes back with me because she's still in Florida. But she didn't want to slept a big bag.
I'm not disagreeing, but it's not, this is where Southwest does a good job.
This is where it's gotten messed up, in my opinion. Is that when you see people, everybody carries a bag on the plane anymore for one or two reasons. They don't want to pay for the bag, or they don't want to wait on bag claim. Waiting on bag claim, I'm in and out of an airport, even at KCI today, I was in and out there in 10 minutes, and their bag claim is horrible.
They're the worst.
If everybody comes in at one time, it can
They're
be
the
15,
worst.
20 minutes.
Right. You can wait 30 minutes.
But it's the worst of any place I've ever been. And you fly a lot, I fly a lot, you've flown quite a bit. You know, every place else I go to, the bigger airports, I don't have any problems getting my bag.
It's 20 minutes to get your bag.
Yeah. So what's 20 minutes out of your day to get a bag so you don't have to slap it on, and slap it around, hit people in the heads, drag it down the thing with the lane? You know, I don't understand this concept. And I think this is what's leading to a lot of the problems. The second thing I'm going to bring up is that...
You mean the charge. The charge is the problem.
The charge is the problem.
So I think
Encourage people to check their bags.
Charge is the problem for small bags. When you charge somebody for a small bag to take it on, I'm with you 1,000%. This is where Southwest actually, and I'm not a fan of Southwest. I think they're a crap airline. I fly because I have to, and I generally go to Chicago a lot, so I can get in and out of Chicago every hour on the hour. So that's why.
You also don't stay very long. You don't have to pack a lot, do you?
Depends on how long I'm going to be there.
So you're like my wife.
But what I would say, I always. But what I would say is, Southwest doesn't charge you the baggage fee, and so unless your bag is over 50 pounds, and even then they'll check it for you for free if you decide that you need to check your bag. They'll do that. They're not nickel and diming you.
Yes.
You know, they're doing a reasonable business that consumers want these.
This makes them popular
things.
in that aspect.
I would agree. So if you fly an airline that you know that you're violating their rules, and also, let's be honest, a double stroller, are you kidding me? That's going to take up so much freaking space, and already your kids are probably a pain in the ass. You know, nobody wants to fly.
Let's put all the Mickey Mouse ears on and see how much of a pain in the ass they are. They bring balloons on the plane with them the size of the kid.
Oh my God, I don't want any part of that nonsense.
I hate flying into Orlando.
Flying with kids.
I had to
Orlando's
this
the
time.
worst because it's just crying kids the entire time.
Oh.
Waiting to get there, how much longer, yada yada, whining and blasting away, and everybody's got a stroller and a ton of toys and crap. And
Couldn't
yada,
believe it.
Yeah, you should charge them extra for that stuff. That doesn't bother me. I will say, if it's the case of the guy where they oversold the plane,
right,
and they put on a flight attendant because he had to be at the next airport, that's a problem. That, to me, is a real problem because you legitimately purchased a ticket on a plane expecting to be there and knowing that you were going to be there. If they knew that there were flight attendants coming in, they should have left those seats open and not sold them.
Exactly.
And that guy got royally screwed.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope he sues their ass and wins a ton of money, which he will, and it's going to happen. Because there's probably 9,000 lawyers in the back of a phone book right now.
Oh, yeah.
Calling them and just going, hey.
When she started crying, if you saw the video, she was sitting over there bawling. You know, but
I have no
there was problems on both sides there.
Yeah.
She didn't do what she was supposed to, and the guy that went to get her got over aggressive and started dropping F-bombs.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think
I
my bigger issue, and we can definitely save this for another show, but I think my bigger issue is not even. I think we're seeing it play out, you know, on these planes, but what I'm seeing is just the general lack of patience and empathy.
Civility.
Civility. That everybody
common sense
is starting
civility.
to display, and that's a disturbing trend to me. And because
yes,
at the end of the day,
yes, ma'am. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
talking to people civilly. You know what? How many times I walk by when I'm on the beach, I walk by and I say good morning to people.
yeah,
You know, it's amazing what kind of response when you just are civil to somebody.
and I
And you
think
treat them with some respect, they generally give you some people will just, not even say good morning back. But for the most part, how important is that to say the little things that make you just, hey, I'm reaching out. I'm saying, hey, have a good day. Have a good day. You know, good morning to you. You know, how are things going? I'm doing well.
I think it's nice.
Little things like that go a long way in human
it's nice,
civility,
but I
and
don't
we're
think it's
losing
the
some
problem.
of that.
I don't think it's the problem. I think a lot of times air traffic is unique.
It's getting brutal because they crowd us in.
The way that they do air travel anymore is
Brutal. It's brutal.
It is horrific. And they make you do all this crap through TSA, which is really nothing more than a war on bottled water, moisturizer, and cosmetics.
Wait a second.
It's complete nonsense.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I want to make a statement. KCI, my mother, 78-year-old great-grandmother, all right, has had a knee replaced, had her ankle broken with plates in it. And I went through TSA, told them I had, my knee replaced. They come out, check me they looked under my watch, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
They took this woman and had her trying to pull up her pant legs on her capri pants, searching her left, right, checking her. She's a 78-year-old great-grandmother. I'm standing there and I want to say something so bad. I mean, I'm literally freaking out. I'm going, what are you doing? But I knew if I said something, I could make her even worse.
Right.
Well, I've said a lot, and I've been thrown in.
And
TSA
it killed me
before.
to sit there and watch them. And I'm kind of like, this woman flies all the time. Why can't we get into a database saying, fingerprints? Mom's had her fingerprints. We had TSA pre-check. And they both ran us through like we were, terrorists. TSA's got a lot of problems right now.
What they have to do is
I watched a little 4-year-old boy get searched.
they gotta prove that they're random. They have to
Blonde-haired
prove
little
that they're random.
towhead kid, he's sitting there bawling, and they're doing a full body search on
They
him.
gotta prove that they're random, otherwise
But they really should profile more, in my opinion. I mean, get real.
Listen,
You're just doing it to make yourself look good.
No, they have to by law do random checks, and so it is what it is. It's when your number comes up. Listen, and I don't like it either. I think it's stupid.
It's insane.
I'm not disagreeing. I think
You mess with my mom,
I
man.
think
I got your ass kicked.
the entire system is stupid. What I would say is that TSA pre-check does nothing but give the illusion, because I'm a TSA pre-check person too. TSA does nothing but give the illusion of safety. In fact, there was a guy who wrote an article in the New York Times who told you 1,000 ways that you can still legally blow up a plane if you wanted to, with stuff that is allowed onto a plane. If you wanted to do it, it is nothing but the illusion of safety. It's complete nonsense. It's an absolute
I can
joke.
blow your plane up with this phone if I had the right shit in. They let me ride
Honestly,
with that.
you truly could. And that was one of his points, is that it was a big load of bullshit. There's no reason for this. You're just making people's lives worse. And it is a load of nonsense.
My mother's had problems in the small airports like KCI. You go through Orlando, it wasn't any problem at all. Bigger airports, Atlanta, no problem.
Go to
I've gone through security in Atlanta, not
Go
much
to
of a
Augusta,
problem.
Georgia, smallest airport I've ever been in my life, and they will search you like you were the biggest criminal of all time.
And they've done that to me
Pat
several
you
times.
down, search your bag, do all this.
I want to go commando and just drop crown and say, here, look at me.
Such
But they'll arrest me for that. Because I don't give a shit. I'm too old to care about what I look.
What do you think? All right, I'll ask you something weird. Do you feel like as a black guy you get profiled more when you go through TSA?
Oddly, no. Although I have known.
Do you think Muslim people feel like they get profiled more?
I think they do, but I also think that most reasonable Muslims and anybody that's of any kind of Middle Eastern type descent, they get why, for the most part. But I will say, there's only been once or twice that I felt like, just
You're pulling me out because you're pulling me out.
yeah, like I remember I had and just had completely forgot that I had it. I had a Leatherman's tool in my, I always had my book bag with me.
Right.
It was in my book bag. I completely forgot about it. And so pulled me out, did the full search. I mean, it was a kind of an aggressive search, and it was pissing me off. But I understood, and this was right. This is probably 05, something like that. Okay. So that I get after. It's not that far after 9/11, and so I'm kind of getting. But then what pissed me off, and once again, which is the reason why I say I don't think that everybody is racist, but I definitely think that people do and say racist things without realizing it. Because I remember seeing these two Middle Eastern guys in like the full garb walk past while they're like patting me all down, and I'm like, damn, Osama is walking right there. What the hell?
My wife looks Middle Eastern somewhat. Never once has she been searched like I have or my mother has. Not once.
The problem would be that you would be sued for racially profiling. Everybody knows it.
But they really need to profile, in my opinion, somewhat. You really want to go after the people for the most part. You look at who's committed the most crimes, they generally come from some Middle Eastern descent.
I would say
for the most part.
The biggest terrorist act in this country, besides 9/11, has been the Timothy McVeigh bombing and blowing up of Oklahoma City.
Not the ones that are trying to blow up airplanes.
I'm telling you, they were about to blow up the Kansas City Federal Building. They changed their plans at the last minute. Went down to
those are your white wackos that are.
But there's a shit ton of them. They're the ones who are blowing up schools.
Your Koresh type guys.
And I think which is the reason that I don't think that I think it's inconvenient and sometimes maddening, but that's the reason that I don't think profiling is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea in an airport. I don't think it's a good idea if the police are doing it. I think profiling is bad for that reason. There's enough.
I can't totally disagree with that. But
there's enough nuts of all ilks that pointing me out or pointing you out.
I would agree.
Solely because what it feels like is all of these acts are being done by Muslims, but really in America
they're not at all.
Yeah, in America, a lot of these mass shootings and mass bombings here, for the most part, have been done by white guys. So, and using that logic, then like every white dude should be thrown up against the wall and that's just insane.
I would just throw this up before we end the podcast because I know you're dying too.
Yeah.
But I would just say I do find it ridiculous that they take water bottles, moisturizer.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah, and
let's be honest.
Dude, this is a half-drunk bottle of freaking Aquafina.
5 milliliters.
How about let me show you? Let me chug about half this bottle right now.
Yeah, I'm like, this is.
If I can drink it and not kill myself, I think I'm probably pretty safe to get on the effing plane.
I just think the rules are dumb. I don't mind even.
I don't mind there being rules, but I think the rules right now are arbitrary at best. Yeah.
I believe it's a war on bottled water and cosmetics. That's all they do. That's all they ever take from anybody is shampoo.
What pisses me off too is at the bigger airports, we're like, well, you can ship it to yourself. I'm like, first of all, fuck you. Second of all, I'm not fucking shipping this water bottle back to my house. It's just.
And I'll tell you even more than that, what drives me nuts is that it's inconsistent at every airport.
Yes.
So I once flew 3 legs of a trip with a propane cigar lighter because, I do like cigars as I'm smoking one right now. And on the 4th leg back, they're like, you can't have this. I'm like, well, I've flown with it 3 times already
today
within this week. Right. And you're telling me now that I can't have it because I wanted to brought it with me. and it was a really, really, really nice lighter, and they did the same bullshit. You want to ship it back to yourself? That'll cost you a lot of money to ship it back to you.
I know.
I'm like, you know what? Come on.
I know.
This is stupid. You're so inconsistent.
Yeah.
You're not looking for the same things.
Exactly.
You're just all over the map.
All over the map, yeah.
So that's when I find it to be nonsense. So anyway, I know you probably want to end the show, but that drives me bananas.
Yeah. And with that, I think we have hit our last words for today's show. And as always, I want to end this podcast in the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me. And that is to good times with good people.
Here we go.